Alabama, it has its worst ranking in the college football playoff era. They were 6th in 2014. They eventually came back to number 1 and made the field. Utah has its best ranking for a Pac-12 team since Washington made the playoff in 2016. And the final top 4 had a change from the previous rankings in 4 of the 5 college football playoff seasons. So not really any surprises, Kirk, as you look at this. This is pretty much how we expected the top 6 or 7 to stack up.
Yeah, and like we said, I think the most intriguing thing for fans that this whole thing is confusing. The easy thing is if Georgia wins, then you're going to have the same 4 in the final rankings. It's simple as that. The numbers will rearrange a bit. If you know, Rece, you just said if the other 3 lose, more than likely they're still going to stay in it. Let's say Georgia beats LSU. The discussion will be, as we know, Utah plays on Friday night against an Oregon team. If they win that game, they sit back and watch Saturday, and they watch Oklahoma, who's been behind Utah all year long in the eyes of the committee, to see if they have enough in that opportunity against the number 7 ranked team in Baylor. And by the way, if you're Baylor, you're pulling for the Oregon Ducks, because if the Ducks win and the Baylor Bears win, Baylor sneaks in as that 4th team.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you look at it right now, if Ohio State were to lose, you walk through this, they've already beaten Wisconsin once, so you've got to split. LSU plays a team that is currently ranked 4th, and Clemson has just looked like one of the best teams, and I think they've done enough to be one of the top 4 regardless of what they do. So really, are you in agreement that we're really only talking about one spot?
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I think so. I think that LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson right now are in a league of their own. And I think right now it's whether Georgia beats LSU to get in, or it's that 4th spot. To me, it's interesting, the conversation about Utah. Again, they've been ranked ahead of Oklahoma and Baylor in every college football playoff ranking without having beaten a team currently in the top 25. So to me, that says, in the eyes of the committee, they passed the eye test. They are a dominant team on both sides of the football. Defensively, they're giving up 56 rushing yards a game, best in the nation. Offensively, they run the football with Zach Moss. They've got an efficient quarterback. They've got the most impressive non-conference resume between themselves, Oklahoma, and Baylor. So it's interesting. We saw Oregon now move to number 13. Is there anything Utah couldn't do? If they just win the game, is that enough to ensure their spot getting in? Is there anything Oklahoma or Baylor could do if LSU beats Georgia and leaves that one spot open?
The advantage is with the Big 12 having a chance to sit back and watch it Friday night and see what happens. And I don't think that, and Rece, you always teach us that these could be razor thin. I don't know that it's that simple that if Utah wins, they get in because of Oregon, where they're sitting now outside the top 10. I think if Baylor or Oklahoma come out on Saturday afternoon and make a statement, and we always go back to 2014 when Ohio State played Wisconsin and made that statement. It was like, oh my gosh, this team has to get in. I think the Big 12 is sitting in that position where they can do that same thing, even though the committee has had them ranked behind Utah. I think if that Pac-12 game is close, it opens the door for the Big 12 to get in.
I think it's important that all these people for the first time are going to come together and watch the game together. They're going to watch these championship games. They're going to be able to talk about it live in living color, what's going on. So I do think whoever has an impressive day, I think it'll carry a lot of weight in the room. But one thing I think is important to note with Baylor, Baylor struggled to climb in the rankings because Baylor struggled week in and week out.
Yeah.
They flipped that switch, though. They have flipped this. They dominated Texas. They smashed Texas. They smashed this past weekend. They smashed. They had a 25-point lead against Oklahoma. I do feel like Baylor has done this and continued to climb. I feel like Oklahoma's kind of leveled out, and they've messed around with everybody they've played with. I do feel like if I'm a committee member, I'm watching Baylor. I think Baylor's getting hot, and they're playing better than Oklahoma is right now. Now they go avenge their loss. Maybe they have a chance to pass Utah.
You know, a good win Saturday night, though, for Oklahoma on the road in Stillwater. But prior to that, I agree with you. TCU, Iowa State, both teams that they sort of escaped against Kirk.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is the way the two teams are trending down the finish line is very important, because remember, at the end of this whole thing, if you have a cluster, in this case we potentially have an OU-Utah cluster, you look at head-to-head, it doesn't apply. Look at common opponent. They both blew out UCLA. Are they both conference champions? Yes. Strength of schedule is the last thing. It would give OU a narrow advantage as far as strength of schedule. It could come down to the metrics, or it could come down to who is finishing finishing last and looking the best as far as the committee looks at it and the way they're trending in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, which would give Utah an advantage.
Yeah, you look at some of the various metrics, the strength of schedule that Kirk mentioned. Utah is one of the, I think there are 4 teams in the top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency, measuring how they've played. Utah has an advantage there, big advantage defensively over Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's much improved on defense from the past. And then Baylor lags behind a little bit on offense.
Strength of record and strength of schedule, though, Oklahoma does have the advantage.
Yes,
I
that
think
is correct.
Oklahoma also has a better loss. Utah has a better loss against Oklahoma, having lost to USC and K-State.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Both winning teams, both that they lost to, both on the road. But Utah, the caveat, they lost to a third-team quarterback, too. USC had a backup.
What's up? Thank you so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. Don't forget to download the ESPN app, and if you want more premium content, which you do, make sure that you subscribe to ESPN+. See you soon.